In Montana, where the mountains touch the sky and the plains stretch endlessly, legends run as deep as the copper mines and as wild as the untamed frontier. From ancient spirits to frontier ghosts, we're bringing 14 mysterious legends back to life. Number 1. Shunka Warakin. In the vast wilderness of Montana, there's a creature that has haunted Native American stories for generations. The Shunka Warakin, meaning carries off dogs in the local tribal language. This wolf-like beast is no ordinary predator. It's larger than any wolf, with a body built like a hyena and eyes that burn with intelligence. The creature has been stalking livestock and pets across Montana for over a century. Ranchers have found their cattle torn apart in ways no wolf or bear could manage. The tracks left behind are too large, too strange, and always disappear into rocky terrain where no tracker can follow. In 1886, a rancher named Israel Hutchins actually shot one near the town of Ennis. The beast was mounted and displayed in a local store for decades, drawing curious visitors from across the state. But the mount mysteriously vanished, and no one knows what happened to it. Some say it was stolen, others believe it simply walked away. Even today, sightings continue. Hunters speak of a dark shape that moves too fast to be natural, always just beyond rifle range. Ranchers still lose livestock to something that leaves behind only questions and fear. The Shunka Warakin remains Montana's most persistent mystery, a reminder that some things in the wilderness refuse to be explained. Number 2. The Flathead Lake Monster. Deep beneath the crystal-clear waters of Flathead Lake lies something that shouldn't exist. Montana's version of the Loch Ness Monster has been spotted by fishermen, tourists, and locals for over 100 years. They call it many things, but most simply refer to it as the monster. Witnesses describe a creature 20 to 40 feet long, with a serpentine body that moves through the water like a living shadow. Some say it has humps that break the surface. Others claim to have seen a massive head with intelligent eyes watching them from the depths. The lake is perfect for hiding secrets. At nearly 200 feet deep and stretching for miles, Flathead Lake could easily conceal something ancient and unknown. Native tribes spoke of water spirits long before white settlers arrived, and their warnings about the lake's depths were often dismissed as superstition. In recent decades, sonar has picked up large, moving objects that don't match any known fish species. Underwater cameras have captured shadowy forms that vanish before they can be identified. Boats have reported being followed by something massive beneath the surface, something that seems curious about the world above. Whether it's a surviving prehistoric creature, an unknown species, or something else entirely, the Flathead Lake Monster continues to guard its secrets in the cold, deep waters of Montana's largest natural lake. Number 3. The Little People of the Pryor Mountains. High in the Pryor Mountains, where the wind carries ancient whispers, the Crow Nation tells of beings that exist just beyond the edge of sight. The Little People, no taller than a child but possessing wisdom older than the mountains themselves. These mysterious beings are said to live in caves and hidden valleys, emerging only when they choose to be seen. They're not always friendly. Some stories tell of travelers who showed disrespect to the mountains and were led astray by tiny voices calling from the rocks. Others speak of hunters who were helped by small hands when they were lost or injured. The Little People are guardians of sacred places, and they don't tolerate those who come with bad intentions. Medicine men have long known to leave offerings of tobacco and food before entering certain areas of the Pryor Mountains. Those who forget often find their equipment mysteriously moved or their paths suddenly blocked. Modern hikers and campers still report strange experiences. Footprints too small to be human, but too large to be from any known animal. Items that disappear from campsites only to reappear arranged in perfect circles. The sound of children laughing where no children should be. In a landscape that feels ancient and untouched, the Little People serve as a reminder that some mysteries are older than memory, and some guardians never stop watching. Number 4. The Ghost of Bannack. Bannack was once Montana's first territorial capital, a booming gold mining town where fortunes were made and lost overnight. But when the gold ran out, so did the people, leaving behind empty buildings and restless spirits. Today, Bannack is one of the most haunted ghost towns in America. The most famous spirit is that of Henry Plummer. the sheriff who secretly led a gang of road agents called the Innocents. By day, he upheld the law. By night, he planned robberies and murders. When the vigilantes finally caught up with him, he was hanged along with his gang members. Visitors to Bannack report seeing a tall figure in a badge and hat walking between the buildings, always disappearing when approached. Some have heard the sound of spurs clicking on wooden sidewalks when no one else is around. Others claim to see lights flickering in windows of buildings that have no electricity. The old jail still stands, and those brave enough to enter report feeling cold spots and hearing whispers from empty cells. Some say they've seen the shadows of prisoners who died waiting for trials that never came, but Plummer isn't alone. Bannack is home to dozens of spirits, miners who died in cave-ins, women who perished from disease, children who never grew up. The entire town feels like a place where time stopped, and the dead refuse to leave. Number 5. The Phantom Hitchhiker of Blackhorse Lake. On the lonely highway near Blackhorse Lake, just outside Great Falls, drivers have been picking up the same passenger for decades. She appears on foggy nights, standing by the roadside in a white dress, thumb raised and hope in her eyes. But those who stop for her soon discover that kindness can come with a price. The woman appears to be in her 20s, beautiful but sad, always asking for a ride to town. She sits quietly in the back seat, giving directions in a soft voice. But as the car approaches the city lights, drivers glance in their mirrors to find the back seat empty. The woman has vanished without opening a door or saying goodbye. Some say she was killed in a car accident decades ago, that she's still trying to get home to her family. Others believe she died of heartbreak, waiting for a lover who never returned from war. Whatever her story, she continues to appear on that stretch of highway, seeking help from strangers who can never truly help her. Truckers and late-night travelers have learned to recognize the spot where she appears. Some slow down and offer a prayer. Others speed up, unwilling to look too closely at the figure by the road. But everyone who drives that highway has heard the stories, and everyone wonders what they would do if they saw her standing there. Number 6. The Dumas brothel ghosts. In the copper mining town of Butte, where fortunes were dug from the earth and men worked dangerous jobs in the depths, the red light district was a place where miners spent their hard-earned money. The Dumas brothel was the most famous of these establishments, operating for nearly a century until it finally closed its doors. But some say the party never really ended. The building still stands today, and those who enter report experiences that chill them to the bone. Perfume lingers in rooms that haven't been occupied for decades. The sound of laughter and music drifts from empty parlors. Doors open and close on their own, and visitors often feel like they're being watched by unseen eyes. The most active spirit is believed to be that of a woman named Dolly, who worked there in the early 1900s. She allegedly died in the building under mysterious circumstances, and her presence is felt most strongly in the upstairs rooms. Visitors report seeing a woman in period dress standing at the windows, always disappearing when they look directly at her. Others have experienced phantom touches, cold spots that move through rooms, and the overwhelming feeling of sadness that seems to seep from the walls themselves. The building has been investigated by paranormal researchers from around the world, and all leave with more questions than answers. Number 7. The White Buffalo Woman. Long before Montana had a name, before miners and ranchers claimed the land, the Lakota people knew of a sacred spirit who walked among them. White Buffalo Woman, P.T. Ska-Win, came to the people in a time of great need, bringing gifts that would sustain them for generations. According to legend, she appeared to 2 hunters as a beautiful woman in white buckskin, carrying a sacred pipe. She taught the people how to pray, how to live in harmony with the earth, and how to honor the sacred connection between all living things. When her work was done, she walked into the distance and transformed into a white buffalo calf, promising to return when the people needed her most. The legend says that when white buffalo are born, it's a sign that White Buffalo Woman is watching over the people. These rare births have occurred across Montana and the Great Plains, each one treated as a sacred event by Native communities. Even today, many believe her spirit still walks the Montana prairies. Visitors to sacred sites report feeling a presence of profound peace and wisdom. Some claim to have seen a woman in white walking across the grasslands, always just beyond reach, always moving toward the horizon. In a state where the buffalo once thundered across endless plains, the spirit of White Buffalo Woman serves as a reminder of the sacred connection between humans and the natural world. Number 8. The Headless Horseman of Miles City. In the cattle town of Miles City, where cowboys once drove herds up from Texas, there's a ghostly rider who still patrols the prairie. But this horseman carries no head upon his shoulders, and his midnight rides are driven by a desperate search for what he lost. The legend began in the 1880s, when a cowboy named Jake Morrison was caught stealing cattle. The ranchers who captured him decided to make an example, and they hanged him from a cottonwood tree by the Yellowstone River. But the rope was old and frayed, and when Jake's body fell, the noose took his head with it into the swift current below. Ever since that night, riders have reported seeing a headless figure on horseback galloping across the plains near Miles City. He appears most often during thunderstorms, his black horse's hooves making no sound on the wet ground. Some say he's searching for his lost head. Others believe he's looking for the men who killed him. Ranchers have found their cattle spooked and scattered after visits from the headless rider. Fences are mysteriously cut, and gates are left standing open. Some have even claimed to hear the sound of a lasso whistling through the air, followed by the thunder of phantom hooves. The old cottonwood tree where Jake met his end was cut down long ago, but locals say it doesn't matter. The Headless Horseman of Miles City will keep riding until he finds what he's looking for, and no one knows if that day will ever come. Number 9. The Lady in White of Virginia City. Virginia City was once the jewel of Montana Territory, a gold rush town where millionaires were made overnight and culture flourished in the wilderness. The Opera House was the crown jewel, bringing theater and music to the frontier. But long after the last curtain fell, one performer refuses to leave the stage. She appears as a woman in a flowing white gown, always standing in the wings or sitting in the empty seats. Some say she was an actress who died of tuberculosis during a winter performance, too dedicated to her craft to stop the show. Others believe she was a singer who fell from the balcony during a particularly passionate aria. Those who work in the restored Opera House report hearing singing when the building is empty, always a beautiful but melancholy tune that seems to come from everywhere and nowhere. Maintenance workers have found programs scattered across the stage, even though no shows have been performed for months. The Lady in White has been seen by countless visitors over the years. She never speaks, never acknowledges the living, but simply watches from the shadows as if waiting for a performance that will never come. Some have tried to photograph her, but she appears only as a blur of white light that seems to glow with its own inner radiance. In a town where the gold rush ended over a century ago, the Lady in White serves as a reminder that some passions are too strong for death to silence. Number 10. The Wild Man of the Tobacco Roots. Deep in the Tobacco Root Mountains, where the peaks scrape the sky and forests stretch unbroken for miles, something wild still roams free. Local hunters and hikers call it the Wild Man, a creature that walks upright like a human but possesses the strength and instincts of a beast. Standing over 8 feet tall and covered in dark, matted hair, the Wild Man has been spotted throughout the tobacco roots for generations. Unlike the Pacific Bigfoot of the Pacific Northwest, this creature is said to be aggressive and territorial. It throws rocks at intruders, lets out bone-chilling screams, and leaves behind tracks that no known animal could make. Prospectors in the late 1800s reported finding their camps destroyed and their equipment scattered after encounters with something that left massive handprints on trees and boulders. Modern backpackers have found similar destruction, along with a smell so powerful and foul that it seems to cling to everything it touches. The most convincing evidence comes from experienced hunters who swear they've seen the creature watching them from distant ridges. They describe eyes that reflect intelligence and malice, a being that seems to understand humans but wants nothing to do with them. Some believe the Wild Man is a surviving relic from prehistoric times. Others think it's a human who went feral in the wilderness and adapted to mountain life. Whatever it is, those who venture into the tobacco roots know to stay alert and never camp alone. Number 11. The Ghosts of Garnet Ghost Town. High in the mountains east of Missoula sits Garnet, one of Montana's best preserved ghost towns. Once home to over 1,000 miners and their families, it was abandoned when the gold played out and the harsh winters became too much to bear. But not everyone left when the living departed. Garnet is most active during the winter months when snow blocks the access road and the town is completely isolated. That's when the ghosts come out to play. Visitors who brave the journey report seeing lights glowing in windows of buildings that have no electricity. They hear piano music drifting from the old saloon and children's laughter echoing from the schoolhouse. The most famous spirit is that of Kelly, a little girl who died during a particularly harsh winter. She's been seen playing in the snow, always wearing the same blue dress, always disappearing when adults approach. Some visitors have found small footprints in fresh snow leading to buildings that show no other signs of entry. The old hotel is another hot spot for paranormal activity. Guests in the winter caretaker's cabin report hearing footsteps in the empty rooms above, doors slamming with no wind to move them, and the sound of voices having conversations in rooms that haven't housed the living for decades. Park rangers who maintain the site have their own collection of unexplained experiences. Tools that move on their own, the smell of cooking food from the old restaurant, and the persistent feeling that they're not alone in the abandoned buildings. Number 12. The Red Ghost of the Desert. In the harsh desert country of eastern Montana, where the landscape stretches endlessly under a burning sun, travelers have reported one of the most bizarre apparitions in the American West. The Red Ghost, a spectral camel with a human skeleton strapped to its back, wandering the wasteland for eternity. The legend began during the 1850s, when the U.S. Army experimented with using camels for desert transportation. When the Civil War ended the program, many camels were released into the wild. One of these camels allegedly carried a soldier who died during a sandstorm, and the animal wandered for so long that the man's body became mummified and fused to the saddle. Ranchers and travelers began reporting sightings of this ghostly camel, always appearing on the horizon like a mirage, always carrying its grisly burden. The creature seemed to have supernatural endurance, covering impossible distances and appearing in multiple locations within days of each other. Some claimed the Red Ghost was aggressive, charging at horses and cattle with supernatural fury. Others said it simply wandered, a lost soul searching for something it could never find. Bullets seemed to pass right through it, and it could vanish into thin air when pursued. The last confirmed sighting was in the early 1900s, but desert travelers still report seeing a strange shape moving against the Montana sky, especially during dust storms and heat mirages. Whether it's a supernatural remnant of a failed military experiment or simply the desert playing tricks on tired eyes, the Red Ghost remains one of Montana's most unique legends. Number 13. The Weeping Woman of Deer Lodge. The old Montana prison in Deer Lodge housed some of the territory's most dangerous criminals for over a century. Within its stone walls, men lived and died far from home, and some say the sorrow of that place created something that still walks the corridors today. Guards and visitors report hearing the sound of a woman weeping, her cries echoing through the cell blocks, even when no women are present. The sound seems to move through the prison, sometimes coming from the maximum security wing, sometimes from the prison yard, always filled with inconsolable grief. The most accepted explanation is that she's the spirit of a prisoner's wife who died while her husband was incarcerated. Unable to say goodbye, unable to touch the man she loved one last time, her spirit became trapped within the prison walls. Others believe she represents all the mothers, wives, and daughters who suffered while their loved ones served time. The weeping is most often heard at night, especially during the winter months when the prison feels most isolated and cold. Maintenance workers have reported tools moving on their own when the crying starts, as if the sorrowful spirit is trying to communicate her pain. Modern visitors to the prison museum sometimes hear the weeping during their tours. Children are especially sensitive to her presence, often asking their parents about the sad lady even when adults hear nothing. Security cameras have occasionally captured unexplained mists moving through the corridors, always accompanied by the sound of tears falling on stone floors. Number 14. The Crying Baby of Hellgate Canyon. West of Missoula, where the Clark Fork River cuts through Hellgate Canyon, travelers have reported one of Montana's most heartbreaking supernatural encounters. The sound of a baby crying echoes through the canyon, especially on foggy nights when the river runs high and the walls seem to close in around the road. The legend dates back to the pioneer days when the canyon was a dangerous passage through the mountains. Native tribes called it the Gate to Hell because of the treacherous rapids and narrow passages. Many wagons were lost trying to navigate the route, and some carried families with small children who never made it to the other side. The most persistent story tells of a wagon train caught in an early winter storm. A young mother and her infant became separated from the group and were never found. Some say they froze to death in the canyon. Others believe they were swept away by the rushing river. But everyone agrees that on certain nights, you can still hear that baby crying for its mother. Modern drivers on Highway 200 report pulling over when they hear what sounds like an infant in distress, only to find empty canyon walls and the sound of rushing water. The crying seems to follow vehicles as they drive through the canyon, sometimes lasting for miles, sometimes stopping suddenly as if the child has finally been comforted. Emergency responders have been called to the canyon countless times by concerned citizens who were certain they heard a baby in trouble. Search and rescue teams find nothing, but many of the veteran searchers admit they've heard the cries themselves. In a landscape where the mountains hold onto their secrets and the river never stops telling its stories, the crying baby of Hellgate Canyon serves as a reminder that some sorrows echo through time itself, waiting for someone to answer their call. If you enjoyed this journey through Montana's most haunting legends, please click the like button and don't forget to subscribe to the channel.